Good day everyone, this is Karina E. Fernandez and I would be your subject teacher for ICT Computer System Servicing. Today I will do a lecture on parts and types of computer system. Before that, let us have the learning competency which could be found in Curriculum Guide. It states that assemble a computer hardware. Our learning objectives are plan unit assembly to ensure OHS policies and procedures are followed in accordance with system requirements. In this lesson, you will learn how to recognize the different components and what they do before looking at the various components. Second, prepare unit assembly to ensure OHS policies and procedures are followed in accordance with the system requirements. So let us start with types and parts of computer system. Let's take a look at the primary hardware components that make up a computer. This includes the base unit, the monitor, the keyboard, speaker, and the mouse. Each part serves a purpose that allows us to operate and interact with the computer. The base unit holds the brains of the computer, the physical parts that process information and make the computer function. It contains important components like the CPU or Central Processing Unit, the motherboard, the hard disk, and the memory units. It also contains ports that allow you to plug additional components or devices into your computer like headphones or printer. The monitor, sometimes referred to as the display. It is the part of the computer that displays output for user to view like graphics and text, and in some cases, the monitor is a separate piece that you must plug into your computer. In other cases, the monitor is built into the computing device. The speakers allows you to listen to sound that comes from the computer. In some cases, the speakers are built into the computer. In other cases, you must physically connect speakers to your computer in order to hear audio. The keyboard is an input device. It is used to interact with the computer. Using a keyboard, you can type letters, numbers, and characters that will be processed by the computer. Keyboard can be physical and attached to the computer, so they can be virtual, where you use a touch display to type directly touching the screen on the monitor. The mouse is an important device used to interact with items displayed on the screen. When you move the mouse, a pointer on the screen also moves, allowing you to operate the computer. You can plug a physical mouse into your computer or use the touchpad that is built into some computer and provide the same function. Next is the printer. A printer is an output device that produces a hard copy on paper. It gives information to the user in printed forms. All of these parts may look the same for every type of computer, but they still provide the same functions. The types of computers. Computer comes in many forms. Some of the common types are desktop computer, laptop, and mobile phones. Another type of devices are calculator, gaming consoles, and smart TV are also computers. The type of computer that we use in our daily life are called personal computer. Let us look at some computer types of personal computing devices and their uses. A desktop computer is a personal computer designed to stay in one place like on top of a desk. A desktop computer typically has a separate pieces for the base unit, the monitor, speakers, keyboard, and a mouse. These parts must be connected using cables. Desktop computers must be plugged into a power source. A laptop is a personal computer where all parts of the computer are contained in one device. Laptop contains a built-in processing unit such as monitor, keyboard, speaker, and mouse touchpad. Laptops are battery powered, so they are not always need to be plugged into a power source. This makes them easy to be used on the go. A tablet is another type of personal portable computer. The computer parts that make up the tablets can contain a single device. It is smaller than most laptops, typically the size of a book because of their small portable size. Tablets are often used for entertainment like watching movies or playing games. You can install software applications on tablet that allow you to perform various tasks. A smartphone is a common type of various portable personal computing device that is small enough to be handheld. The primary use of smartphones is to make phone calls using mobile networks, but they can be used for much more. You can use a variety of software applications on your smartphone that allow you to take photos, play games, browse the web, send emails, read documents, and more. All of these apps are great for on-the-go scenario, but they are typically dandy apps. You can install on your computer or laptop computer depending on your needs. There are a variety of personal computing devices that you can get things done. Before starting the installation, let us have the safety tips. Tip number 1, organize your workstation. First, prepare yourself a clean workspace. This can be a dining room table, a cleared off desk, just any surface big enough for your case to lay flat on its side with ample room around it for the rest of your components. Tip number 2, ground yourself. Put the grounding strap on your wrist and connect to the other end to the computer case. If your strap is not equipped with a clip to hook to the case, find a place to wedge against the metal. This will prevent any build-up of static electricity on your body from damaging the computer components. Take note that static electricity can ruin computer components. Always wear a grounding strap when handling any internal components. Before starting assembling the computer system, make sure you have the screw and screwdriver that will fit the screws on your case. Warning that using incorrect tools for a task, such as turning a screw with a knife blade, can cause equipment damage and bodily injury. Also, before starting the installation, read carefully the documentations and procedures in any hardware and software setting that may be required. Failure to do the proper jumper setting may cause damage to your CPU. These are the hand tools for assembling the base unit. Let's start with a computer case. A computer case is the metal enclosure that contains many of the other hardware components, and it comes in various shape and size, but a typical tower model is between 15 to 25 inches high. Open the computer case by removing the side panels. Find the screw that holds the side panel in place and remove them. The panel is removed by first sliding it back, then lifting it away from the case. Case may have sharp edges. Handle with care to avoid injury. Next is the CPU installation. The CPU is the brain of the computer. It is installed on the motherboard in the socket. To install the CPU, find the corner marking that designate pin 1 of the CPU. On this AMD brand processor, the corner is marked with an arrow. Consult the manufacturer's documentation for specific information about your processor. Lift the small metal rod next to the socket and find the corresponding marking on the CPU socket Then insert the CPU so that the markings are lined up. Push the rod down to lock the processor in place. The CPU fan is really a combination of a heatsink and a fan together. The unit draws away from the CPU. To install the fan, place the thermal compound to the CPU following the instruction provided with the compound. Pull the locking rod down on the fan assembly to lock into place. Connect the fan assembly power connector to the motherboard. Consult the manual to determine proper placement. Failure to apply thermal compound will result in insufficient cooling and will cause damage in the CPU and or the motherboard. Step number 3, the random access memory or referred to RAM. The RAM is the temporary memory location that the processor works from. Permanently stored data is pulled from disk and stored in RAM, while the processor works with it. The memory is easy to install. Set the RAM board in the socket. Check to see that the notch in the board is in the correct location. If it is not, turn it around 180 degrees. Press firmly on both ends of the board to set it into the socket. Make sure the tabs lock into place. Pressing the board in place the tab is not aligned could cause damage to the board as well as the motherboard. A power supply. Consult your manual for details, then follow this direction to install the power supply. Align the mounting holes in the case and power supply as shown. Insert screw and tighten. Okay. Next, we have the storage or the hard drive. The hard drive is the device that stores all of the disk or all of the data. It is 3.5 inches wide and need to be mounted so that you can gain access to the cable connection on the back. If that is not possible, you may need to connect cables before you install the drive. To mount the drive, find a 3.5 drive bay to install the drive in. If you have trouble finding a place to mount the drive, consult your case documentation for suggestions. Slide the drive into place until the screw holes on the slide are lined up with the holes in the case. Then install the screw. Internal build. Internal build is also the input-output shield. This should be front or back panel connection for features such as the power switch, audio jack, and USB ports. If they are not labeled, consult the manufacturer's documentation and label them yourself now before other parts are installed in the case. Installation of the motherboard. To install the motherboard, we need parts that should have been included with your purchased component. Input-output bezel is a trim panel installed in the back of the case that surround the interface port on the motherboard. It should be included with the motherboard. Standoff are installed in the case screw holes to create a riser that separate the case and motherboard. The screw installed into the standoff. Screws and standoff should be included with the case, but it is good idea to order this item just in case they are not included. Follow this step to install the motherboard in the case. Install the input-output bezel plate into the opening in the back of the case. It pushes it from the inside. Lower the motherboard into the case aligned with the input-output bezel, then install the screw. To prevent damage to the motherboard, it must only contact the stand-off and screws. All of the stand-off and screw must be installed. Then, last, organize the power cable. In terms of cable management, the cable with all the components installed in the case, the jungle of wires can be daunting. It is important to consult the motherboard manual in order to make sure proper connections are made. These are two kinds of connection, the power and the data. Every device that has been installed needs power. The motherboard has two power connections, and there are two connectors specifically for SATA devices or the drives. The other connectors will run fans and other non-SATA devices. Data cable connect drives and front panel to the motherboard. Please consult the motherboard documentation for the exact placement of connectors. Incorrect connection can damage component and cause bodily injury. Now that the components are completely installed, the last thing to do is to reinstall the side panel on the case. The computer is now ready to be turned on and to have software loaded of it. If the computer has problems starting up, check all the components, connections, and mounting to make sure that you have hooked everything up correctly. Consult individual components manual for specific troubleshooting information if problem persists. Thank you and have a good day.